Our thoughts on the documentary Jim Henson, Idea Man. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's go back. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Gen X Unfiltered, the podcast.
What's up, everybody?
Hey.
Eric, we're going to just go right into it, and you're going to take us away on the topic for this. I like to make it
No
awkward.
pressure. Just throw it right to it.
Kidding. What an awkward throw.
But sometimes if you think too much, it gets jumbly.
Thinking too much is never a problem of mine.
See, you've thought too much. All right, go ahead, Eric. Take it away.
So we watched Jim Henson Idea Man, which is a documentary on Disney Plus a couple days ago. And we're going to talk about Jim Henson, kind of our remembering and our experience with his, Sesame Street, the Muppets, all of the Jim Henson different products out there.
Yeah.
And we're just going to get into it and, our thoughts on the documentary and how well they did a job of talking about Jim Henson's story.
I think that for me, at least, I didn't know anything about Jim Henson. So, I mean, it was kind of enlightening for me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know he did Fraggle Rock. So that's about where I am with the whole Jim Henson.
No, obviously knew Jim Henson. I mean, he was such a huge part, I think, of all of our childhoods,
Yeah. He was, but without me even realizing
but
he was,
I
right?
definitely knew who he was. I remember when he passed away and stuff like that. But
I think I
had no idea about sort of coming up and how it all started and
Steve
stuff.
knew Jim Henson and Muppets, Fraggle Rock, Sesame Street. You not so much.
I mean, I watched those shows. I just didn't know. I knew Jim Henson the name. Like, I know Jim Henson the name. I just didn't know a lot about it. I mean, I think when before we watched, I even asked you guys, is he still alive? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, for anybody out there who's not sure who Jim Henson is, maybe I should do a little quick bio on on the man himself.
Do it.
Okay.
Who is Jim Henson, Eric?
All right. Now that made this really weird.
No, it's just called throwing.
Yeah.
Throw to you.
All right. Great. So Jim Henson was an American puppeteer, animator, and filmmaker, best known as the creator of The Muppets. He founded the Jim Henson Company and was the creative force behind iconic shows such as Sesame Street, The Muppet Show, and Fraggle Rock. Henson's innovative puppetry and storytelling left an indelible mark on children's entertainment and pop culture. His characters, including Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, and Big Bird, have become beloved figures worldwide. Henson's extended feature film work includes The Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, which showcased his visionary approach to fantasy and puppetry. His legacy continues to inspire generations of creators and audiences.
Okay, so before we even get into it, I'm just going to ask you guys a question.
Okay.
Okay, because I was just thinking of this when I watched it. So I'm going to ask you guys the same question and then I'll answer. What was... You're watching the documentary, if you can sum it up in like one sentence or even a word, what was your impression of Jim Henson after watching the documentary?
That's tough. I would say, honestly, probably complicated. More complicated than I thought.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Eric?
I didn't know he was so introverted. Like, he wasn't like super outgoing, I guess, but he was super creative.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the like ambition and passion he had. I mean... Like, we're talking about a guy who made puppets, but it was like everything, and he put everything into it. And I mean, just watching the documentary, which we'll get into, I mean, he literally like was there for like he wasn't, I don't even know the words.
No, he wasn't a guy that was,
making money and sitting at home.
Or that, he didn't get to that point where he kind of stepped away and like was in the office and like, sort of running the company but he was there right up at the end. Like, he was there with his hand up in a puppet underneath the stage doing the work. Yeah. He wasn't kind of like, as the company grew, he didn't kind of step back and let other people
I think
do it. He was there hands-on
the thing for
the entire
me,
time.
Though, is that he was, because he was so passionate and believed in it so much, and it was just his passion.
Well, I think he loved it. He wanted to do that, make the puppets, run the puppets, create the content. He was a creative guy. I don't think he wanted to be the businessman that's running a company and in an office and creating deals and this and that.
The documentary was really interesting, though, because it started off talking about how Jim Henson just wanted to get into TV.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't want to be a puppeteer right off the top, right?
No, he just thought it was his way into TV. He thought was the way to do it.
That's something he fell into, more or less.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting, because I always thought Jim Henson was this, like, master puppeteer. He went to school for it and learned how to do marionettes and puppets, but that wasn't the case at all.
Here's my question, though. You saying about wanting to be in TV, because I don't remember, or if it was even said, did he want to be like on TV or just involved in TV?
Involved in TV. Like,
so
he wanted to work at a TV station.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as a kid he saw TV and was like, wow, this is awesome and it reaches so many people, and I just want to be in the TV business.
But he didn't. Yeah. It was not like he strived to be an actor or something like that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he just wanted to be in the business, and he kind of thought, hey, with puppets and stuff like that, this might be a way to get in there.
One of the significant moments, and I don't even know who said it. I couldn't tell you. They interviewed a lot of people, but I think that they said that, I don't know if Jim Henson had said it or somebody said it about him, but it's like he always knew he was going to do something big. There was something big he was going to do. He always knew that. It was just, what was it? And it ended up being puppet. I don't think they thought that's what it would be.
Yeah, exactly. Like he always had a passion.
Yeah.
And they could, like, his peers could tell, right?
He's going to do something big.
Yeah.
Well, and even sort of with the whole puppet stuff, like he didn't even start doing that it wasn't for kids at all.
No.
That kind of fell into his lap almost when the children's television workshop sort of started, and they were like, hey, we're trying to make like educational content for kids, and we think sort of what you're doing with the puppets and stuff like that could...
It was pretty crazy because like the documentary starts off like you were saying, like his early career in TV and stuff, and with the Muppets, it goes all the way through till the end after his movies and his death and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, like early on, the Muppets were like very very violent.
Yeah, they would hit each other, fight each other. One time they shot one of each other.
We got shot in the head for a commercial.
Yeah, they were all just jokes and funny and goofy, and it was just a creative outlet for them. And then it was kind of like this children's television workshop started, and they were like...
and it was interesting because like the commercial work, it wasn't something he was like super passionate about, but it gave him like the means to go make his small films and more of his passion projects.
It would pay the bills.
So if I remember correctly, and I probably don't, but I mean, he was obviously trying to pitch all his puppets and stuff like that to lots of networks. I remember that part of it. He was always trying to pitch his stuff.
Yeah.
Before like Sesame Street and all that, is that when he was on Saturday Night Live? He started being on there.
No.
Was it Saturday Night Live?
They did do skits in the first season.
But was like Sesame Street still? No, it wasn't a thing.
Street wasn't a thing.
Sesame Street was first.
What was it?
It was 73. Sesame Street came out first. Then the Muppet Show came out after.
No. But I'm talking about on Saturday Night Live.
They had those random skits with those puppets.
I thought that was before he had his TV shows, and that's what kind of... I don't know.
Good
I don't
question.
remember.
I thought the impression I got was that Sesame Street was out.
It could have been. I have no idea.
And the Muppets of Jim Henson were on SNL as more of an adult way to like get an audience looking at the Muppets.
Oh,
it's just crazy that they had Jim Henson was on Saturday Night Live, but that was a really random pairing, and it sounds like they hated it because they couldn't even write their own material and stuff like that. They just they would be told, here's what's going to happen, here's what the public can do.
It sounds like it was an awful experience for everybody. The writers hated working writing dialogue for the Muppets, and Jim Henson hated...
The puppeteers hated doing the work for it.
Yeah, because they had no creative control at all. It was they had the scripts written for them.
Yeah, it sounded like it was just not a good mix for anybody.
It didn't last long.
But wait, before we go any further, because I remember Steve saying this and he said it numerous times, and I'm surprised he hasn't said it yet. But it's not a bad thing, but I'm just saying, you talk about the biggest thing that surprised you about the whole documentary.
Oh yeah, how they came, the name Muppets.
Yeah, you're like blown away.
I had honestly never really thought about it, but then it was, it's a combination of marionette and puppet. I was like, oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But I never had heard that, and I know I was kind of where Muppet came from. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a pun for puppet, but it's like, oh yeah, marionette, because it had arms that you could move with like sticks almost, and then it was a puppet, so Muppet.
We should also talk about too, before we get too far in the timeline, like his wife was very involved.
Well, I was going to say, we kind of glossed over it, but his wife was a major starting factor for the two of them for the first 10 years or whatever their career. The
first company they created, it was a 60-40 split between the two of them.
Yeah, she was a driving force with him to get this thing started.
And she was older than him.
Yeah.
Older lady.
And she kind of, when she started having, they started having a family together, she kind of stepped away and not necessarily what she wanted to do, it sounds like. And that's where I said there's a lot, it was all these, you don't hear about that stuff, but like, there's definitely, I think she had some resentment there.
Oh, yeah.
That she was kind of, had to step away, but she still wanted to.
Yeah,
she wanted Jim at home
cared more about,
with the family.
Yeah, but she wanted, when he
wanted to be working.
But she wanted to be working, like she said. That was sort of one of the dynamics. Was when he came home, he wanted to talk about the family and the kids, and she wanted to talk about
business,
the Muppets and the productions.
Because he was away, because like that kind of. I know we're jumping, but it's hard not to. But like the first big break he got was in the UK, right?
No, that was for that's how he got
That's the Muppet Show.
Okay,
that's how he was trying to get the Muppets on TV, and no one wanted to do it.
My point around that was like we're talking about like he would be gone for like months and months and months and months and months and months in the UK when
Before he was doing
whatever
the Muppets,
time.
yeah.
So yeah, like when he came home, he's just like whatever, and then meanwhile she's been at home with 5 babies, and she's like, no, I want to hear this.
Yeah, I want to do more than just be a housewife. I want to, she had aspirations. She was a creative individual and stuff on her own, and wanted to do that, not just be a mother and raise kids who had a lot of other ambitions and aspirations and stuff.
Well, her role changed a lot from early on when he brought in guys like Frank Oz and more people to work on the creative with him. His wife slowly got pushed out.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like you really talk about Jim Henson, but it was not just Jim Henson by any means. There's a whole lot of people that were working with him, helping him, supporting him.
Well, I mean, of course, I mean, it just kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, like I had to take a pause because I kind of was thinking about one thing, but thinking about another thing. But I mean, like for somebody like me who, again, I knew the Jim Henson name. I knew he was the Sesame Street guy, and the Muppets guy. But like well, here's a question. Did you guys watch the Muppets?
Oh, yeah.
I know we all watched Sesame Street.
I love the Muppet Show. And Sesame Street, but I loved the Muppet Show when I was a kid.
Was that with the 2 old grumpy men?
Yeah.
The grumpy old man.
Grumpy old man.
That's where they come from. They would sit in the balcony seats there, and
did that have the whole little?
Yeah, that was the whole big opening.
Yeah, that's the Muppet Show opening.
Memory unlocked.
So you did watch it then?
I mean, I did. I don't think I would say I religiously watched it, but again, even for the limited time I did watch it, I have those like the grumpy old men, the song. Like maybe I did watch it more than I thought. I watched Fraggle Rock a lot more.
Fraggle Rock as well.
And I didn't realize that was Jim Henson. Until you guys.
Oh yeah. No, that Fraggle Rock. I mean, they were like such big sort of tentpole shows. I think of our childhood, like Sesame Street as a kid.
Oh gosh,
like everybody watches that when you're like 2 to 5 maybe, or I don't know what the age range is, but so I remember watching that for sure, and obviously the Muppets watching that.
Yeah.
Well, I remember they talked a lot about the Sesame Street because I mean that's obviously such a huge show, and isn't it like the longest running TV show or something?
Yeah, for kids probably.
They were talking about how like he wanted to create this big over the top puppet, which was Big Bird, and the specifics of creating it and how like complicated it was. I also thought that the Kermit story was not funny, but interesting because it was literally like his wife's jacket or his mom's jacket.
His mom's jacket.
The original Kermit puppet,
and it's just so like janky, but it's like an iconic puppet.
Yeah. He really, obviously they kind of refined the look of it and stuff, but it's not like he really liked using it because he realized just with your hand how much emotion you could convey in a puppet's face just by opening your mouth a certain way or your hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I thought that I'm just having these little moments that I remember in the documentary, and then how I already forgot my train of thought. So continue. I literally
one thing I thought was really cool, and I kind of never really thought about it, but how they actually made the puppets work and what they did, and oh my god, those seeing people... them underneath, and they basically had a little small TV.
A monitor
underneath it in front of the monitor, so they could see what the camera was seeing.
But they look so uncomfortable.
So.
They're like lying in this tall, squishy space.
Oh yeah, they showed the opening of the Muppets movie where it's Kermit singing in the bayou.
Yeah,
and like Jim Henson is like
in a barrel
in like an underwater like container like for I'm like that would be so claustrophobic.
Yeah,
well,
yeah. It's like oh my god, but you realize you kind of don't forget because it is a Muppet, a puppet. Yeah. That there's somebody underneath it somewhere
squished into a tight space
controlling it and making it talk and all this stuff, and it's like wow, seeing that was actually really interesting how much goes into that, and like that's just like a workout.
I know.
Yeah, and then a couple of clips they showed with like the 4 grown men like under this like table like squished and like and
they're trying to all use a monitor and stuff like that, and it's like
and because we're talking about like the 70s or 80s, so like technology wasn't as great as it is now.
Oh no,
not at all. So I mean they had gigantic TV monitors to watch instead of now it would just be like
Well, they kind of then they touch on that like when they did the Dark Crystal and stuff, and that's when they started getting into like more animatronic puppets and stuff where like someone could control it remotely with their hands and stuff like that. So it wasn't someone having to like crawl under a sound stage with their hand up a puppet and like stuck in these weird little tiny spots.
That's a super interesting point because its TV shows are super successful, right? Like Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, The Muppet Show.
Yeah.
His films, I was shocked because I thought they were more successful than they were, but they weren't successful at all.
I think they were darker.
Yeah, because I remember, like, Weird Memory Unlocked, my mom rented The Dark Crystal for me and my brother to watch. And she's like, and I was like, what's this? And she's like, it's like The Muppets. I'm like, oh, I love The Muppets. Yeah. The Dark Crystal is not The Muppets.
No, not at all. Yeah, they were very out there.
It was a whole like fantasy world. It was a lot of dark themes and stuff. Like one of the characters dies in the movie and that gets brought back to life by love or something. It's really weird.
But my impression of that is, and I'm just speculating, my impression of that is like, Sesame Street, Fraggle Rock, the Muppets, like they kind of like way back when he was doing the commercials with the puppets, it gave him the means to do his passion project. So he could do a movie because he was passionate and creative and it was his creation, and it could flop, and it was like, well, that sucks, but like I'm not counting on this to pay my bill. And you know what I mean?
Doing something that I want to do, that I'm passionate about, that interests me, and it's like, because you hear about that now with like a lot of celebrities, right? They'll do
these floppy movies.
Well, they'll do the studio movie, the big action movie or whatever, and then because they do that, then they can make their more passion project, which might be sort of more out there or different or whatever. So it's almost like the Muppets and Fraggle Rock and all that stuff. That was where his make the money, keep the powers employed. That be happy, and because they do those, I can take the chance. And
exactly. Did either of you guys watch like The Dark Crystal or Labyrinth?
Really?
Okay, let me. Steve.
Yeah. I did, but I think I saw them once, and that was it. And I was just kind of like, man.
I don't even think I watched the Muppets in Manhattan or whatever that was. I didn't watch any of those.
Oh, I forgot about those too. The Muppet movies,
Yeah, I remember watching those. They had a lot of celebrity cameos in those.
And even I totally forgot because the Muppet Show was like it was like it was a weird kind of variety show mix, but it had like a ton of celebrities on it too.
Well, they talked about that in the documentary, how it was such a hit that these huge big name celebrities wanted to be in it with the puppets, and they had too many. They didn't have enough shows to put all those celebrities in. Isn't that crazy?
It's a great story of the Muppet Show, like how he shopped that to all of the big networks, and they all turned him down. He went to the UK, produced it independently, and it became this massive international hit,
which caused him to have to be in the UK for like months and months
months at a time. And just the grind of doing those shows where they said like every week they do a new one, but it was almost like a Saturday Night Live where they would script it all and choreograph it all within that week and rehearse it and then do it. That I don't think it was live, but then do it the one night. But so it wasn't like they had a ton of time to like pre-plan it, and it was it seemed like a very chaotic and like hectic show to shoot, almost like a Saturday Night Live where it's like, we got a week to come up with, create, produce, and shoot this thing in 7 days.
And another thing they talked about really quickly, because some of his kids were in the documentary being interviewed, was that all five, I shouldn't say all five, but a few of his kids at least kind of like went into the business with him, but they all started they all had their different like niches. Like I think one of the daughters was very into like the costume
creating the puppets and stuff like that,
but then the one son was more into like the
very techie
the tech guy. But like it sounded like they all kind of started from the bottom, worked their way up, and it's just like well,
because the one I think it was his oldest son said that like it was weird the first time kind of working with Jim, not his dad, but working with Jim, and like they said he was so much different on set. He was much more lively and fun, and
really,
because he loved it so much. Like obviously at home, he's trying to be dad and trying to be somewhat strict and be a parent,
be a bit of an authority figure.
Yeah, but like when he got on set and he was now Jim, the boss who was doing what he loves and having fun doing it, like it was like a totally different person, really.
I mean, the one thing I can say that I remember from watching the documentary was that nobody had anything bad to say about him. I think the worst things people said about him was that he. Well, Eric's gonna.
I'm just trying to think. I'm not gonna fact check.
No. I'm just saying. I think the worst stuff that was kind of said was that he was like a workaholic and like the typical like he just didn't really know when to like stop. And blah, blah.
Definitely.
But he sounded like he was very good to the people that he worked with him or worked for him, and all that kind of stuff.
Definitely sounded like it, and I mean after all these years, like there's never really been anything that's come out since his passing about. Any kind of stuff, and I mean obviously there was him and his wife had their issues and stuff.
Well, I think the fact that he was never around.
Well, but even his widow now, like still was they had a good relationship and all this stuff, and no one really had anything bad to say about him, and it seemed like
was she on the documentary? No,
she was she on there? I can't know if that was her or not.
Okay, but she would be like 90. Is she still alive? Do we know that?
Good question. Not sure.
I forget. I don't think she was on it.
His two or three of his kids were. Two kids, the son and daughter.
The son and the daughters were,
yeah. Because his one son mentioned that like Jim was kind of he wanted to date after he was like a bit of a player after he got divorced.
Yeah.
He's like he just wanted to date, not have serious relationships,
and just kind of have fun, and not have to,
Yeah.
None of the commitment stuff.
Again, I mean, but they also, so they had met in college. So they were very young when they got married and blah, blah, blah. And then obviously he became very successful and was like never home. I mean, that in itself is probably a reason why, their marriage didn't last, just not being physically there. But I mean, but even as kids talking about their childhood and stuff, it sounded like they didn't have any gripes about it.
No, at least the ones that were on camera didn't have any kind of like, he was never around and we were forgotten. It didn't seem like that was the case at all.
Anytime Jim had to make a big decision, he let the family know, like when he was going to buy the rights to the Muppet products, right?
That's right. They talk about that when the company that produced the Muppets, whatever, I don't remember the name of it, but it was being bought by another bigger conglomerate.
Yeah.
And he was worried he was going to lose control of all his Muppets and
his life's work.
Yeah, he was worried it was all going to go. So he basically, they said he mortgaged everything to buy it for himself. The rights.
Yeah,
which is.
And he told his family, like, "I'm going to do this. It's a big risk."
But they were like, "Yeah, do it."
Yeah, his wife was like, "Yeah, like you have to do this."
Yeah, like you need to control that because who knows what they're going to do with it and ruin potential legacies or do whatever yet. But they never actually said how much he spent, but I can only imagine how much it was.
I mean, not just that, but I mean, it's like your baby. It's your creation. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want control over that?
Well, that's exactly it. I mean,
you do whatever you could to keep that control. So, I mean, and the fact that his family was like, because, I mean, they were clearly living a very nice life, based on the little things they showed on TV. I mean, he had lots of money, but and the fact that his family was like, no, like spend the money and do it.
Yeah.
They were supportive.
It's worth the risk.
Yeah, and it was nice that they were supportive, not just like, no way, you can't do that.
No, it's cool. It seems like his whole family's involved. I mean, obviously him and his wife started it out, but even the kids and stuff, like they were all involved and a part of it in some way, shape, or form. It was definitely a very family-oriented thing.
Yeah.
But it was actually, the one thing too was cool to meet like the other people that worked, like, was it Frank Oz?
Frank Oz, yeah.
And some of those guys too that kind of helped, sort of different. They designed a puppet. Some of them were the writers and all this stuff. It was it's interesting to kind of see the whole backstory of the whole team and how it all kind of formed out. You kind of just think, like you said, Jim Henson just kind of one day was like, I'm going to make a puppet show. And then boof, it just kind of happened.
I mean,
I thought it was really cool. Like Frank Oz explained how Bert and Ernie came to be.
Oh, I remember that, but I don't remember.
So initially, like, Bert was puppeteered by Frank Oz and Ernie by Jim Henson. Mm-hmm. But initially it was the opposite.
Yeah.
Jim was going to try and do Bert, and Frank was going to try and be the puppeteer for Ernie. And it wasn't working out. There was no like chemistry. Yeah. Ernie was very like kind of outgoing and like childlike, and Bert was just sort of like
a stick in the mud,
a straight man. But they swapped, and they realized that Frank Oz made more sense because it was more like his personality to be Bert. And Jim was more playful, so him being Ernie made a lot more sense. And then they could kind of bounce off each other like they did in real life through the characters.
Yeah, that was actually really interesting to hear.
That just kind of unlocked another thing that I remember from the documentary was when they were talking about Sesame Street and how initially it was just like the street scenes, it was just people.
Yeah.
And they're like, we couldn't figure it. Like, it just wasn't like, it just wasn't
It was
there.
too dull, they said.
So that's why they added in Big Bird and Oscar. And they're like, as soon as we did that with the people, it was like the whole street just came to life. So it's like these weird little things, right? Like that, just like us being like, I mean, we can't imagine Sesame Street without Big Bird and Oscar on it. But initially that's not what it was. I love hearing details about stuff like that like we as viewers never really, like, I know. The whole like creative process of how things happen is fascinating.
It spoils the magic in some ways, seeing like the puppeteers working with the puppets, because it's like, oh.
No, to me it makes more sense in my brain. I'm like,
it's just.
I get it then, right? Like, I'm like, okay, I get.
Yeah, it was just crazy to see like what it takes to make one of those things move and how many people it is and like how they do it. Like I said, like cramming them into like the smallest spaces and all this stuff. It's like, oh my god, like it's absolutely nuts.
So they went into the documentary and they showed a lot of clips from the Muppets and Sesame Street.
Yeah, so it chronicles his TV success and then his like kind of affiliate movies and buying the rights to his the Muppets back.
So then another interesting fact that I didn't know until watching the documentary was right before his death. He died in 1990.
Yes, May 16th, 1990.
So right up until his death, he was actually in talks with Disney. Could you imagine?
Well, Disney did buy it.
They actually did buy it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought that they said it. They were just in talks.
Well, they were in talks. I think Jim Henson died before the deal went through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he died.
But now Disney owns the rights to the Muppets.
Right. Okay.
Because
so
they
fine.
had the clip of him on Michael
Eisner, yeah.
on
Okay,
like
yeah,
CNN
yeah.
or whatever, like to announce this
partnership.
But it
Yeah.
wasn't finalized before his death. So
Right, no.
when I asked you guys, is Jim Henson still alive? Because I had no idea. And you guys were like, yeah. And I went on Wikipedia before the documentary because I just, can't wait. But he died at like, what, 53?
53 years old, yeah.
He's so young.
Yeah, he was really young, yeah.
Like so young.
So I got a little blurb about his death.
Go ahead.
So Jim Henson died on May 16, 1990 at the age of 53, like you were just saying. His death was caused by a sudden and severe case of bacterial pneumonia. Henson initially mistook his symptoms for a minor illness, delaying medical treatment until it was too late. By the time he sought help, the infection had progressed significantly, leading to an organ failure and his untimely death. Henson's passing was a significant loss to the entertainment world, as he was a pioneering force in puppetry and animation.
Okay, so really quickly before we talk about it even more, I'm going to say, Eric, when we were talking about this before we watched the thing, and we before I even Googled it, you said, and this is just what you knew. It wasn't like whatever you had said when I said, oh, how did he die? And you said, oh, AIDS complications.
I thought it was complications from AIDS he died from.
So then we were Googling, because obviously the documentary is not going to talk about that per se.
Because I remember hearing this when I was a kid. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, because I remember you said that, and I was like, really? My guy had never heard that before.
So we Wikipedia'd it and read articles, and that was the rumor.
That was a rumor because, like, at the time, like in the early 90s, celebrities who were dying of like illnesses, like pneumonia and stuff, it was... it ended up being complications from AIDS, like Rock Hudson and people like that.
Yeah, Freddie Mercury and all this stuff.
So there were assumptions made that Jim Henson was the same thing, but it turns out it wasn't.
Doctors did say, like, no, that wasn't it. It was just literally he had an infection and it just went bad. And probably because of the fact that he worked 8,700 hours in a day, his immune system was probably just
what I assume,
But it's just interesting that, like, because when you said that and and then we Googled it and you're like, oh my gosh, where did I hear that? That's weird. But then it literally said that was actually
a rumor at the time,
But it's just funny, after all these years, that's still sort of what you thought until... Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. He unfortunately passed away, but it was just interesting the rumors that get spread that aren't even...
Well, especially back then where, that happened.
Yeah.
Or, they would sort of say, oh, these people had pneumonia or something, and then it would come out later that they had AIDS and stuff as well, because it was still a bit of a mystery and a kind of hidden...
So then the documentary sort of wraps up with Jim Henson's funeral, right?
Yeah.
It was actually really sad, like... Big birds singing, it's not easy being green.
Yeah, that was really sad.
Yeah.
It was really sad, but I actually effing loved what he did. He had written out stuff before he had died, because whatever. So I think it was his friend or his kid, I don't know who the eulogist guy was, the guy giving the thing, but he was literally reading the words from Jim Henson.
I think, and then his friends too. But
I was like, this is freaking genius, because he's even reading, he's like, well, if you guys are all here right now, it means I was like, this is amazing, because so many people laughed. I mean, it's obviously a funeral, it's sad, but it just like, it was like he was there speaking.
I love that.
I want to
really
do
cool,
that. I want to do that.
Okay.
Start writing this now,
No, but I'm just saying, I thought that how cool was that for like all of his friends and family to like literally hear his words at his funeral when they're so sad.
No, it was really cool. And he sort of like, hey, I think you should have some people to come out and say some nice things about me and
have this song
and have this puppet do this and all this stuff.
Tell your friends and family what you want at your funeral.
Because didn't they have all the people in the crowd in the church? Did they have like puppet like butterflies or something that looked like?
I can't remember.
Looked like it,
yeah. So they were all holding like little, I think it was butterflies and stuff like that. So it was obviously stuff that he was like, hey, I want people to do this, and it was.
I just thought it was
more of a celebration
cool.
of a life than a somber, sad funeral.
But like, what's one of the things that's like always the worst when a loved one dies, and it's like, oh my gosh, like you're trying to plan a funeral and you're like, what would they like? What would they love? But to be able to like literally have it all written out and give, like, it's just so cool that he did that.
Well, especially given what he did for a career of making people smile, making people happy and stuff like that. It's nice that his funeral was more of a celebration of his life and still trying to make his friends smile and
he did. They all laughed.
Remembering, good memories and good times, not just a drab and dreary.
Yeah, I mean, clearly people are sad,
well,
but like,
of course it's a funeral, but it's nicer that you can smile and cry happy tears a bit, remembering some of these good times. It's nice to see that.
I just thought that was super cool, and it's funny because like after watching the documentary, I'm like, that's so Jim Henson.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know why. I was just like, that is so something he would have done.
Yeah. No,
but it was cool.
Yeah, so I thought it was a really good documentary overall. but you too.
Coming from a perspective of somebody who literally knew nothing other than his name, I thought it was really interesting, and just sort of, again, to me, the thing that sticks out the most was just his passion for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really interesting. Like I said, obviously knowing Jim Henson and knowing a little bit, obviously watching his stuff growing up and knowing how he passed away and stuff like that. It was really interesting just to kind of see how he got to where he was, and I kind of forgot how big
the Jim Henson universe was
and his name and how much he had done. And, I kind of forgot about that. So, it was really cool. And it was Ron Howard, I think, directed it too, right?
It was Ron Howard, yeah.
It was really, really well done.
So with that in mind, do you guys have a favorite Jim Henson character or a couple favorite characters?
Okay, here's the thing, is I may accidentally say things that aren't Jim Henson. Well, I don't know who else did puppets.
Homer
but like,
Simpson.
You know me, I get confused. I mean, I don't know. Would I say I have a favorite character? I didn't watch them all enough to like really have a favorite character. I mean, Sesame Street was probably the most. Yeah. But even then, like... what
about Miss Piggy? She was sassy and fun.
She was sassy, but, I did enjoy her. I liked I don't even know if they were good or bad, but I remember on Fraggle Rock, the dog. I liked the dog.
Oh, the old man's dog,
the big was that actually a real dog?
No.
Oh,
okay.
No. It was a big shaggy dog.
I liked the
owner
dog.
was real, the older man.
Okay,
but it was his dog,
I liked the dog. And on Fraggle Rock, there was a couple characters. I liked the ones with the orange hair. I don't know who it was.
Yeah. But, you know what's actually really weird about Fraggle Rock? Remember like the little construction worker Muppets?
Yeah.
The little green guys that was building stuff. And
was that the Lemmings?
They look like Lemmings.
They do look like Lemmings, yeah.
You're close, but the Fraggles would always eat the construction materials, like the buildings and stuff. When I was a kid, I thought it looked delicious. I want to eat them too.
Okay, Eric. That's something to talk to your therapist about.
Yeah, I know. It looked like icicles.
Okay. Anyway, but maybe the Lemmings were inspired from Fraggle Rock.
Probably, because they sure look like it, yeah.
Maybe.
Connection made.
I bet you, I guarantee you there's probably some connection there. It actually made me think just real quick, as you were talking about Miss Piggy, when they were developing the Miss Piggy character, and she was, in the one scene, she was supposed to slap Kermit for the first time.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the guy did the hi-ya karate chop.
Frank Oz, yeah.
And that became like this whole thing that, sort of helped bring out this personality, Miss Piggy, where
she was sassy.
She knew she didn't have a lot of the talents for the singing and dancing, but with the bravado and the balls to do it.
She had the confidence.
And just bulldoze her way through whatever she wanted, yeah. So that was actually kind of funny to see how...
Yeah.
And then there was also, I liked the who was the blue character on Sesame Street?
Oh, Grover?
Oh, I liked Grover. And
Telly?
No, I didn't like Telly. He was weird.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
Okay.
But Grover, and then also the dog on Sesame Street. Wasn't there a puppet dog?
There was a big shaggy dog on Sesame Street, too.
No, but there was like a puppet dog.
Oh, puppet dog. Oh.
On Sesame Street?
I don't know, Muppets maybe. The puppet dog. I don't know, whatever. But anyway.
Rover, the brown dog?
Yeah, I liked Rover.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
His head was made from a basketball.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, I don't have a favorite character, but I'll let Steve answer because he probably more likely does than.
I don't know if I have necessarily a favorite character, but the one thing we didn't talk about, one of my favorite shows that Jim Henson did was Muppet Babies.
Is that the cartoon?
Yeah, it was a cartoon. I love that.
I loved that when I was like, I must have been like, when we were like 7 or 8.
Is that where 9? They just showed the adult's legs?
Yeah, I don't know if she's the mom or the nanny.
They called her nanny.
Yeah, but she just had you see the green and white sock.
Yeah.
And they had like Muppet baby animal and all this stuff. I loved that when I was like.
Same.
It's probably like 9.
I remember having some of the Muppet Babies like toys from McDonald's.
Yeah, they had like little
Meal.
cars. I remember Fraggle Rock too, but I loved Muppet Babies.
The Muppet Babies were so cute.
Yeah.
I never, like, again, the movies, Dark Crystal.
No, I didn't watch those.
Labyrinth, yeah.
Saw them.
Yeah.
Didn't really do much for me back then. Although I'd be curious to watch them again because
if they hold up, I'm not. Yeah.
But do you have a character that you remember liking? Like,
I always liked Animal. Animal was funny.
I forgot about Animal. Yeah. Was he crazy? He was like,
yeah, he smashed the drums and stuff like that.
Animal was based on John Bonham.
That's right. Yeah, I remember the drummer for Led Zeppelin. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
was
there was no
Muppets?
one specific.
Animal or Sesame Street?
He was Muppets.
Muppets. Yeah.
I was definitely more Muppets than Sesame Street.
Yeah.
But yeah, Animal. Gonzo was always funny.
Oh my gosh, Gonzo!
You know, the old guys. Some people say I remind them of one of them.
Yeah, you guys just sit up there in your little theater seats
and
judge. And judge. Yeah.
That's right. What a life.
Pretty much.
But yeah, those are probably the 3 really ones. And then I think everyone like Big Bird has a soft for him.
Yeah.
And Kermit singing in Rainbow Connection. Come on, that's great.
Well, I mean, Big Bird was just like
kind of like with Kermit.
Was Big Bird just like a dopey bird with a big heart?
I know he was dopey,
he was
but
childlike.
He's just childlike.
Yeah.
All right, Eric, what about you?
I loved Animal. I thought he was like hilarious.
Yeah.
Because he's just like a crazy guy who'd like just say the craziest things and be like, rah!
Yeah.
So I loved Animal. I also loved who else? Grover.
Yeah.
Especially when he was Super Grover and he would like fly around with his cape and crash into stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought that was hilarious. And Gonzo.
Gonzo's good, yeah.
Yeah, Gonzo was great because poor Gonzo. He was always lusting after Miss Piggy, but she had no interest in him.
No, the other thing was always fun was the Beaker.
Beaker was hilarious.
Yeah, Beaker and the Swedish chef.
Yeah.
I remember that. So see, like all these things that I just remember because I didn't remember until you're talking about them. But I remember Beaker because they were always doing the science experiment.
Yeah, they always blow up in his face and he just
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's cute.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Watching these things, you kind of forget. Even just telling me, like, oh my god, you forget how much, and the fact that like Sesame Street's still going and like it's still, from what I know, is popular with kids. I mean.
Yeah.
What it was doing was great too, teaching people, it wasn't just about...
Well, it wasn't just educationally teaching kids about counting and numbers, but it was teaching about like interpersonal relationships. And like you even made a comment from the 70s. They had, it wasn't just all white children in it.
No, even like you had like black, Hispanic, white, Asian actors all together. And so I'm sure that was probably like
I'm sure it was an issue.
Where a lot of people probably weren't okay with that.
But it's nice
when the show came on. But no,
it was inclusive very early.
Yeah, no, it's just nice to see, and that's and it's still that way. And teaching kids like the alphabets and counting and all this stuff too. Was, there's a good marriage of entertainment with like education and stuff like that, and a good sort of prepackaged way for kids to just eat up.
All right, Eric, is there any other points you want to give before we wrap?
No, I think that was overall a really good review of the documentary.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching that one.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all enjoyed it. Right?
I liked it more than I thought I would.
Yeah, sparked a lot of memories. A lot of things I didn't, I kind of locked away in my memories from the past.
Yeah,
I was like,
once you start to hear and see this, like, oh my god, I forgot. Like,
Follow That Bird, all the movies and stuff. So it was really good.
My closing thing is, it's just really sad that he died at 53 years old. Because think of the other stuff that could have came.
Yeah, what could have been, right?
With all the extra technology and stuff. Like,
that, and then teaming up with Disney and stuff like that. Like what that could have potentially led to. Yeah.
Hopefully his family got a lot of money for that.
I'm sure they were well compensated.
I'm sure they did just fine. Yeah.
All right, guys, comment below. Let us know what your favorite Sesame Street, Muppet, Fraggle Rock, Jim Henson character is. We'd love to hear it.
Absolutely.
But that's it for today's video. We thank you so very much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Meet me.
Ooh.
I don't know what that.